So welcome back to Economic Survey Part 3. So today we'll try to cover the major other themes, 6 other themes. So mainly we stopped at service sector last time. We covered the different industrial, agriculture, industry, infrastructure and service. Today we'll be covering about the driving force for this, that is the workers, rural, urban. We'll try to see the different phases now, what exactly is happening. So when you come to the employment part, chapter 12 gives a very good idea and a new ideas are being circulated that today we find that it is not just, let's say, quantitative employment. They're looking at qualitative growth, job employability. They're looking at skill development. And there is a phase shift. Earlier, it used to be supply driven. Supply driven in the sense, if you take the case, let's say, in colleges, even today, we have many colleges where degrees are being churned out. But these degrees do not ensure employability. You have a famous statement from Narayan Murthy telling that though they have finished engineering, but still they are unemployable. Again, we have to invest another 9 months to 1 year to train them, right? So today they're trying to increasingly connect academia and industry. They're trying to build up the skills and looking at employability. This is the marked shift that we find. And see, certain things that economic survey is pointing out is our demographic dividend is going to peak in 2030. Our demographic dividend is going to peak in 2030, right? And we are going to have 98 crore working age population. Currently, we have around 65 crores. We are going to have 98 crore working age population, and this calls for an important thing because now you see there's a decadal shift in the way of thinking also in terms of policy. Earlier, you used to find that policies used to be focused on harnessing the demographic dividend alone. But today, because demographic dividend is going to reach the peak and then it's going to start declining, government is even increasingly focusing on the possibility of a demographic winter setting in. Right. So you find that the policies, they're starting to move towards where the elder age population is protected. All these policies are also coming up and more investment is going into this. So this is one thing that we have to be aware of. And further, we are trying to move from a supply driven skilling model. As I told you, it's no longer supply driven skilling, it's more of industry driven one. We are trying to move towards that factor. And further things that we have found is, we have already discussed about this, how manufacturing, services, and the growth of gig economy is powering India's economy today. These have become the engines. And you find that the recent deployment of the labor codes, the 4 labor codes, has improved ease of doing business. India is consistently rising in the ease of doing business rank. And this is resulting in your dream towards Viksit Bharat. These are the 4 important components when you take. One is harnessing the dividend, skilling them with respect to industry demand, growth in the sectors, as well as policy reforms, which are enablers, right? Now, as I told you, the demographic dividend is going to peak, right? Around 2030, it is going to peak. And as you can see here, this is the old age population line is also slowly rising. As you can see, it is slowly growing. It's going, by 2047, you'll be having almost 22% or 25%, you can say. 22 to 25% of. Means when you're speaking of Viksit Bharat, what is the population you're envisioning? Around 50%, you can say a working population, and 25% aging population, and 25% your children as such. So now there is another word which is very, very important, which is being used. When you're going towards this scenario, when you're heading towards this scenario where in Viksit Bharat, you're going to have 25% of, you can say, old age population, the economic survey makes a very good term, or it cultivates a very good term called as the longevity dividend. What do you mean by the longevity dividend? The longevity dividend is where you're going to start taking care of this population, the working age population, in terms of trying to improve their health. Because if you improve their health, then their chances of working further will improve. Health is a major factor which is instrumental for a person to continue his work, right? So, especially with the rise of NCDs, we'll get to see that today more than communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases have increased. Basically, lifestyle diseases. More than 50% of diseases is lifestyle diseases today, right? And especially cardiovascular diseases, these are the ones which are dominating. So the idea is when we speak of longevity dividend, it is to ensure that the next upcoming generation can, adopt good lifestyle practices and ensure that they can work for a longer period of time and they don't retire early. Right? This is another idea which has been floated in the survey. Now, when you come to the labor market dynamics, so I'm just speaking with respect to a male and female, you will observe when you take the case of female that most of the female are even today concentrated in agriculture. But male, we already have this feminization of agriculture where more and more women are participating, and this is very much evident. And you find that more women are there in service sector, right? This is very, very important for your prelims. This is very, very important for your prelims because many a times they may, a statement might come. Women in service sector are less than women in manufacturing sector, right? These are the trends you'll have to observe. They are not. This is wrong. Women are more in service sector. And on an overall basis also, what do you find? You find that for an agriculture, yes, 45% of the employment is coming. Next employment generator has been service sector. Right? Yes. We know that service sector in terms of GDP contribution is higher. This we know that in terms of GDP contribution, service sector is the highest. But even in terms of employment, what you find is first comes agri. Agri is greater than service, and service is greater than industry. Remember this. Further, when you see the quality of employment, this graph shows about the quality of employment. You find that the wage or the salary worker, which is pink color, as you can see, this middle big bulb, right, across, you find that there are more male salaried workers than female. This is by standard, we tend to agree to it. But we find that own work, generally own account worker and employer, it combines both agriculturists as well as entrepreneurs, self-employed workers, right? So they are forming the highest bracket. Right? And regular wage salary workers are forming the second highest. So this is basically a formalized economy is what you can sense. When you look at it from person perspective, approximately 25% of the total workers are formalized, right? Only 25% of the total workforce is formalized as per this. These are the derivations that you need to pull out of it. Now further, when you look at the labor market resilience, today you have, I told 65, it was 56 crore. You have 56 crore workers, right, totally employed. 8.7 lakh has been added the last year. So they tell there is declining unemployment rate and stabilizing labor force participation rate. Especially when you see the rural economy and the urban economy, agriculture is dominating in rural economy with 57% and self-employed is 62, 63%. Right? Whereas when you come to the urban economy, you can find that service sector is dominating with regular wage or salaried workers dominating with 50%. This is a general insight, right? So you find that in rural areas, the level of formalization is very less, but today you find there is decent work and there is rising LFPR, especially mainly contributing to the good monsoons. There is a good number of activities. Later, when we are even studying, you find that there is real, see, in the previous economic survey classes, we have discussed that there is increase in rural consumption. See, understand this. There is increase in rural consumption. What does that mean? There is a real wage rate growth. Isn't it? Only if the farmer is able to, get some more income, then he'll go for more consumption. If he's getting less income, there will be less consumption. Rural consumption is directly driven by agricultural activity, right? How much they're getting. And you find that because of that, there has been real wage rate growth, right? And there is another interesting observation that is present in your economic survey. In Manrega, there has been decline of work, decline of request for work. In Manrega, there has been declining request of work. I have a graph upcoming. I'll show you. It has been completely declining. What does this tell? When you look at this, and when you look at Manrega, which is showing a declining graph rate, what does this tell?
Demand for agriculture and other regular way of salary. So the dependency on
yes. See, this is generally what this is unseasonal work. Means there is when they don't have any work, that time they are going towards employment opportunities in Manrega. When they have work, they do not go. So you can observe there are two trends in this. One, there is qualitative growth in agriculture. Real wage rate growth has happened. Secondly, there is also shift towards industrialization. Two factors can result in this, right? Two factors can result in two reasons you can say why Manrega is going, the Manrega employment share is declining. Further, when you come to see, with respect to women, unlocking potential, overcoming structural barriers for women, you find that it has risen drastically from 23.3%. Today it is 41.7%. Women's labor force participation rate has been increasing, right? It has been increasing, but still, your economic survey paints a very important picture. When you take the case of caregiving, the amount of time that a woman invests in caregiving, it is 140 minutes, whereas men, 74 minutes. It's almost more, double than men, which also shows that this caregiving activities are not calculated or not equated for the qualitative work. They do not account for GDP or as such, but they are very instrumental and fundamental for the growth of the society, right? And when you see the unpaid work, 363 minutes in a day for women goes for unpaid work, whereas for men it is going for 123, right? These factors still stand out, and this is mainly because of the caregiving activity which is happening. And government is also finding that for women, what are the constraints? The economic survey speaks of what are the constraints. One constraint is this with respect to caregiving and the unpaid work that they're doing. Second aspect that they're speaking is something called as pink tax, which hinder women's labor force participation. What do you mean by pink tax? What do you mean by pink tax?
because for that they are paying tax. for the earnings which they have earned through care, they're paying tax.
No, when you speak of pink tax, see, for example, let me come back. See, when you speak about pink tax is the, you can say, informal tax which is levied on the woman. Consider a woman in an urban economy, in an urban city. Now, when she has to, if she has to take a bus at night, she would rather prefer to go by cab, or she would rather prefer to, pay something extra for her security and safety, right? A woman has more expenses for, for her safety in the society. That is what you call as pink tax. Even in terms of dresses, all those aspects, a woman is supposed to spend more. And this is what you are calling as the pink tax.
If they pay for what government pay for it.
No, they are not. See, it is not a tax as such, not a conventional tax. It's an informal tax. Means because the government is not able to provide safety cover, of the woman completely. Now the woman has to take measures to ensure that she's safe. So what are the measures that she maybe see? It need not be always paying extra. Many a times she will not be willing to join a job because the job leaves at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. She would say, no, I have to leave my office by 5, which the employer might disagree. Now she lost a job opportunity. That's a pink tax. Why is she requesting for that? Safety, cameras, are they available? Again, for her pepper sprays, all these, whatever equipments, and she needs a mobile now for SOS, right? We did find many, buttons and all coming up into place where you press a button, then a SOS is generated. But again, all this requires investment. She needs to invest in a lot of things if she has to go and work, right? That is what you're calling as the pink tax. This is the second thing that the economic survey speaks about.
And the labor code now reducing tax.
Yes.
But you pay time.
Yes. The labor code is trying to do that because they're rationalizing, they're telling the factories to bring in safety measures whereby the woman can work during night times also, right? So this is something that is happening. And even in terms of mobility also, you find that she buses, or you can say in metro, you find the first coaches being reserved for women. All these are measures that are being taken so that women feel safe to travel, right? Or in terms of even, employing women in auto for this rickshaw job in mobility sector, especially in Gujarat. This has happened, where you find a lot of she auto rickshaws. Thereby, it is encouraging women at night time to choose. Again, at night time, taking a cab, they would be wondering, where will I go and land up? Right? There is always that tension. But now with she auto rickshaws as such, there's a safety being created. And again, for working women's housing, government is investing in Sakhi Niwas. Right? This is another thing. And now, 17 states regulationary change that has got, they have removed hazardous industry restrictions. 22 states allow night shifts with safeguards. Right? So these are some activities that are taking place so that we can ensure and encourage women to go to participate in the economy. Now, coming to the unorganized workforce, see, when you take the unorganized, when you take the case of the organized workforce, not unorganized, you see that in terms of geographic distribution, 7 states, see, I'm speaking only with respect to industry. Be careful, I'm only speaking with respect to industry. I'm not speaking with respect to service or agriculture. When you take the case of industry, you find that Tamil Nadu is the state which is providing the highest employment opportunity, right? For the organized workforce in industry, Tamil Nadu is the state followed by Gujarat and other states. Karnataka is 6% as such, right? What you find is 7 states are contributing to 60%. 7 states is equal to 60%. right, of the total employment. And we have 28 states. Remaining 21 states is only 40%. And even in that major industry groups, you find that food products, the FMCG sector has the highest employment, 11%, followed by textiles. So you would be wondering about the US, Bangladesh, I mean, US, India, US, Bangladesh treat the textile issues because you are employing approximately 9% of the total industrial workforce in textiles. Third comes your basic metals. Fourth comes your motor vehicles. Fifth is your wearing apparel. Sixth is your machinery and equipment. Seventh is your chemical products. Eighth is non-metallic mineral products. So if you ask me, first four are important. You need to remember this first four. Right? First one is food products, second one is textiles, third one is basic metals, fourth one is motor vehicles in terms of high share of employment. This also helps you understand which sectors to focus on when you're studying, especially for your mains too. It helps you understand. These are the sectors where I should be focusing because government will be focusing more on these. There is more workforce over here. Now, the manufacturing, another phenomenal shift that we can find that's happening in India today is the shift towards scale and productivity, where we had the small factories. You know, earlier we had this small is good. There was issues, or you can say there were policy barriers whereby MSMEs, if they try to grow big, then they lose a lot of benefits. So what the MSMEs used to do, instead of growing big, they used to create other MSMEs. So they were not able to become big industries. They were always small industries in more numbers, right? Small factories. And today, see, this is what they are defining. Small factories less than 100 workers. 77% of the factories and 21% of the workforce, right? And when you take the case of large factory today, 22% of the factories employ 79% of the workforce. Right? And here, higher wages and productivity. Whereas in this scenario, you are having lower wages. And this transition is happening. As you know, it says it has doubled in the last 10 years. Large factories have doubled in the last 10 years. Previously, it was only 11%. Today, it is 22%. Right? And 57 lakh jobs have been added in the manufacturing over the last decade. Right? So India is mainly witnessing a structural shift from small units to large factories. And when they're speaking about this buddy system intervention, this was a very nice study that was conducted by Economic Survey. Basically, what it is trying to say is, today, because there is a lot of migration that is happening, it might be formal or informal migration. When in the case of formal migration, people who are coming from other cities or you can say from other districts to this urban districts for employment, they're always having anxiety. Their mental state is always with anxiety, what to do in the new place, what will happen to me in the new place, what are the effects. So they introduced something called the buddy system, right, in Bangalore. What they would do is, suppose, take the case, someone from, let's say, Madhya Pradesh, right? Someone from Madhya Pradesh, let's say someone from Ujjain is coming to Bangalore for work. Someone from Madhya Pradesh, Ujjain is coming to Bangalore for work. In a factory, there will be other workers from Madhya Pradesh or Ujjain, right? So what they started doing is they started pushing this person to go and represent the factory for him when he was initially inducted. As a result, what happens is when they see a person who is coming from a familiar geographical area, the anxiety levels reduce, right? More trust starts building towards the company, towards the place. Because already one person is here, is surviving and is living. So that starts to begin. So that's what they're telling. This buddy system which they introduced resulted in 5.3% reduction in anxiety and 6.4% productivity boost happened because of that. And 12% for senior buddies. Even they felt what's happening is because they find some new person coming, now they're becoming a role model for them. They're setting as a role model, an example. Now their productivity immediately improves as a result. So this buddy system is something that the economic survey is encouraging, especially in large factories. One of the instrumental policy changes that's required for the growth of large factories is this. Because people to migrate many a times take a step back out of the fear that what will happen to them. Out of the fear, if they go there, they might be, they might be subjected to some sort of, let's say, discrimination. These fears are always there, especially for women, if they are migrating. So once they find somebody over there, it becomes much easier for them, right? And they also understand the system much faster. Yeah. Now, this was a chart which I found very interesting. So this chart is showing the states with the highest share of large factories with higher TPE and productivity. TPE is total employment time, right? Productivity means factories with employment size greater than 100, share of large factories in total factories in a site, right? This is large factories. This is state-wise labor productivity. Now, what you are observing is where there are large factories, as you can see, green are large factories, there is higher labor productivity, right? And when you see the time spent, if you start correlating, further, there was this very nice table in your economic survey, which speaks about the features of the work relationship for a regular wage, casual worker, self-employed gig worker, and a fixed-term contract worker. The employer-worker connection is direct, no employer, via digital platform, tripartite or tripartite. So nature of work, ongoing. This is casual, as you know, seasonal. Self-employed is ongoing. Task-based, ongoing. Means in gig economy, you get only revenue only on task. If you deliver one person or if you drop one person, that is when you're going to get your revenue. Payment is fixed for regular, casual, daily, self-employed profits, task-based, fixed. When in the case of contract workers, work location is specific, self-determined, specific. So those are very nice charts. So ours are fixed, casual is demand-based, self-determined, fixed. Social security, yes, not covered, next. So you find that social security is there only majorly in regular wages. Leave, paid leave, no paid leave, self-determined, no formal paid leave, next. Right? Why I'm showing this is so that you guys start understanding that there is no, when you come to the case of social security, there is very, very minimal opportunities, or you can say there is very minimal schemes which are happening. But you find there is a huge change over there too. When you come to the case of gig economy example, you find that e-Shram portal has come up, whereby 31 crore unorganized workers have been registered, and they have also included the gig workers. Right? The e-Shram portal has also included the gig workers. And when you see the projections, you find that today gig economy is 2%. When you find the gig economy to be 2% of the total workforce and growing. It is 2% of the total workforce and it is growing, and it is going to be 6.7% by 2030. And they're expected to contribute 2.35 lakh crore to GDP, right? So it's a huge economy. Earlier, it was considered as a fringe part, but today you find that gig economy is no longer fringe, right? And now the best part that is happening is by giving them UANs, right, which comes in your portal, single identity card, unified access network. So in the e-Shram portal, they are getting that social security also. They are registering over there, and gig workers are able to easily find opportunities in different companies. And you find that code on social security has formally defined these gig workers. And it says that mandates aggregator contribute 1 to 2% of their turnover for social security. This year, all the labor codes have been brought into force. As a result, you'll find that this year, many of the companies' balance sheets are changing because they're having to spend some more amount to adjust to these codes. And one of the major mandates is 1 to 2% of the turnover should be provided for social security coverage of gig workers. Another part, see, when we speak of financial inclusion, we are speaking of what all components? We are speaking about banking. We are speaking about pension. We are speaking about insurance. And then we are speaking about credit. When I speak about financial inclusion, I'm speaking about 4 topics. I'm speaking about banking, pension, insurance, and credit. Now, banking, everyone is through Jan Dhan Yojana, right? Pension, you find that eShram portal has been providing the access, and also the insurance is being integrated into eShram only. But there is a huge challenge with respect to credit. Credit access for gig economy. Credit access for gig economy remains a huge challenge, and as a result, they are having, thin file credit taxes. Credit is something that the workforce is not able to get so easily. Though, some gig workers are earning really well. They might be earning 2 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 6 lakhs. The banks are not willing to give loans to them because, again, uncertainty, they do not see, it is self-determined. It is task-based, self-determined. There is no formal paid leave as such. 1 month, if they decide, I don't want to work, right? As a result, these are some issues that we are facing. And as you know now, these are the 4 labor codes: Code on Wages, Industrial Relations Code, Social Security Code, other social provisions code. Now, universal appointment letters, one of the major things, gig worker recognition and gender equality in night shifts. Right? These are the major things which has happened. As a result, SBI has put an estimate that formalization is going to happen from 60% to 75%. And it is going to generate 77 lakh jobs where it is using compliance friction. This is what's expected from this labor codes. That formalization will move towards 60 to 75%. Today, how much is the formalization? We studied, it is 25%. Approximately today, we are having 25% formalization. With these codes, we are expected to move towards. Now, when you come to the skilling ecosystem also, see, as I was telling you, we had a hold model where it was supply driven and it was focused on enrollment numbers. Today, it has become demand driven. Means we are trying to link it with the industrial. What the industry's demand is. And it is focusing more on employability and wages. Right? Skilling, see, just having a skill center and telling I skill so many people doesn't help if the skills are not translating into employment. Skills should also translate into employment. Right? As a result, you find that the government has come out with a program called as Skill India Digital Hub. A very, very beautiful program. Why? Because they are trying to integrate. You see, they're trying to integrate the courses and centers on one hand. The National Career Service, that is the portal where you can apply for the jobs, where you can go and apply for the jobs. And they're trying to verify the credentials of the candidate. So this platform, what it is doing is, for the employer as well as for the employee, it is becoming a connecting ground where it is giving assurance in terms of credentials. It is also letting him know where the opportunities are. When he accesses the linkages, he understands where the industry demand is, which sector there is more employment opportunity. Now, where he needs to go and skill himself hub. So Skill India Digital Hub is being created. It's created already, which is ensuring that people get to know which skills they need to adapt. Yes. And you can find that some new schemes have come. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0, where they are training them in industrial revolution, industry 4.0, new age industries, AI, IoT, green energy. And you also have this Pradhan Mantri Vishwakarma, which is actually helping the traditional artisans. This is a potential question that can be asked this year. Pradhan Mantri Vishwakarma, because it was released last year, where they're trying to give digital ID and e-vouchers for traditional artisans. They're trying to formalize the traditional artisans, recognize their skills. Moving on. Another idea is catching them young, to get the workforce at the age of 16 years, 17 years into, work, provide them employment opportunities. Now, for that, what is happening? So currently, you find that only 4.9% of the youth have received formal training. Only 4.9% have received. And 47% of schools currently offer skill-based courses. These are two defining things. Why? Because in your NEP, you speak about that, occasional exposure. You keep speaking about that, but even today, you find only 47% of the schools are having skill-based courses. Means 53% are still not providing skill-based courses. And only 5% of the youth have received any formal training as of now. So NEP speaks about increasing vocational exposure in middle school. Now, when later we are coming up with education, you'll also start finding that after your today, you have almost 99% gross enrollment in, you can say, primary education. It is primary education where you're having 99%. But as soon as you start moving towards middle or secondary education, there's a huge decline. There's a huge decline. There is more than 30% people who are not willing to continue.
So, those people who have formal education and
Training, not formal education. 4.9% of the youth in the age gap of this have received formal training. In the so now NEP is doing that vocational exposure grades 6 to 8 Kaushal both textbooks is being invented. See, now there is also another thing. See, one very good thing about the economic surveys, they're not just looking at bringing out schemes, seeing problems. They're also trying to change people's behavior. I've already told that there is an idea towards nudging people. So they're trying to understand what are the behavioral hindrances, behavioral, or you can say societal limitations, which are preventing the people from realizing their potential. Now, for example, what happens is most of the people, they start looking at the industry level jobs as blue collar jobs. There's a, you can say, stigma attached with it. Okay, this is not a high paying job. A blue collar job is not a high paying job. And at the early childhood, they're not willing to invest in learning blue collar skills, right? This is another reason you find that though government is coming out with this Kaushal both textbooks, which is nothing but skill-based textbooks, it is not translating, as you can see, into training because there is certain behavioral limitations. Even that they're trying to address will come. We'll have a look later. Especially in Odisha, there has been a very good program which has come about. Just try to address this. In Meghalaya, see now in Meghalaya also there is this Spark program. Right, in Meghalaya, you're having this Spark program where for grades 8 to 10, communication, resilience, and emotional well-being alongside technical skills is being focused. Means what they're doing is they're taking them for industrial visits. So they're taking them to industries. They're trying to tell them, okay, this is how you have to skill yourself up. And see, 6,048 students have been impacted and they have been given training also. Where not just technical skills, communication and emotional well-being is also focused on. Yes. So this program is standing out, Meghalaya's Spark program. It is integrating, see, this is the idea that they're telling, integrating vocational education into the general curriculum. What happens is, it removes the blue-collar work idea and it creates a seamless school-to-work transition. This is the keyword that you should use in your mains too, school to work. And you find that in major of the Western economies, in the advanced economies too, people who are in their schools, they begin to work at a younger age itself. It's not that day one they will sit as a software programmer or anything as such. They start working this. You will find many of the Indians who have been there working in, they're studying for masters, but parallelly they're working in restaurants as such to make a living. So this is something that happens parallelly, where you don't frown upon any job. The dignity of the job is there, and school and work happens parallelly. Here also there's a transition from school to work. Now, this is the Odisha model that I was trying to tell you. So, before I go to Odisha model, another important thing is you have this program, right? National Apprenticeship Program, whereby government directly pays stipend to the, you can say, interns or to the apprentices. Now, what government has done is 25% of the DBT is directly paid to their account. 25% of the DBT directly goes to the apprentices account. So remaining 75% is paid to the, you can see the person who is providing them apprenticeship. And 9.9 lakh apprentices have been enrolled as a result of this. Now let's come to the Odisha model. This is a very nice model. They are calling this as the 10-6-4-2 formula. Means 10 successful alumni, 6 employed outside state, 4 women and 2 entrepreneurs of a particular sector. See, when you take the case of Odisha, Odisha has a lot of industries, because you find that it's located in the Chotanagpur plateau. It is a hub for a lot of factories, right? Now, what they started doing is to prevent the idea that a blue collar job is below, or you should not skill up yourself to a blue collar job. They started, getting 10 successful alumni to do a campaign through digital media, through their presence in that particular industry. 10 successful alumni who have graduated and who have been able to set up some industries or who have worked in that industry. 6 who have been employed outside the state also, how they have been able to prosper in that particular industry. 4 women who are working in that industry, then 2 entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs who are doing good. They're trying to bring in all these people so that the mindset shifts, right? There is a behavioral shift. And as a result, it is transforming the idea, and many people are getting into vocation-based education. They have started this World Skills Center also in Bhubaneswar, where they're trying to first fix the idea, then scale and accelerate, right? And there is a large-scale convergence of schemes also, as you know. So it's nothing but transformation of ITIs, which are your training centers, from last resort to aspirational world-class training centers. That is what's happened over here. It was a ITI. Earlier, everyone used to see ITI as the last resort. That's the last resort. If I don't get employment anywhere, I'll go to ITI, I try to skill up and then get placed in any of these things. But today, they're trying to become world-class training centers. And to move towards this, it has to be, the main idea is public perception has to move towards the jobs being aspirational. The jobs should look like aspirational. When the jobs look like it is aspirational, that is when people will start taking that as a vocation. And that is why they're doing this program. That's the 10-6-4-2 formula, whereby it's creating an idea that this is an aspirational job. There is a lot of, you can say, growth in the job. There is a lot of demand for the job. And it's a good job, right? That's why I'm saying nudge. They're trying to nudge people into understanding these things. Further, other things that you find which are actually, helping in the growth of the skill centers qualitatively is through innovating financing. What they're trying to do is, for example, you take the case of skill vouchers. Now, what government is doing is, it is issuing skill vouchers to these people who are in, who are seeking skills. And now with that voucher, they can go and join any center for any course. Now, what this is creating is, now the centers have to be skilled. The centers have to be, you can say, to the mark. There has to be a quality. Only then these people are able to I mean, only then the people are going and redeeming it over there. Else people won't go there. They'll go to some other centers which are providing. So they're trying to bring in competition among the centers to improve their curriculum. And one of the most important impacts is most of the people who are seeking skill training, they will go to those centers where their skills are translating into employment, where you can see there is placement opportunities, where there is growth. So now people, they themselves are recognizing where there is demand and where their skills can translate into employment. And as a result, because of this, they are going and joining the right places where they are able to get more employment opportunities. It's a very nice, innovative instrument that they have got. It is being used in Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, it's called as Vikalp. And the best part is it is redeemable only upon performance. So only when they join that particular, just because they join there, immediately it doesn't get redeemed, because there is again a lot of malpractice that can happen. So there is also a performance, tracking that is done, whereby are they really studying that? Are they really skilling themselves? Then only that skill voucher will get redeemed. Now, when you come to skill impact bonds, this is also where private investment are linked to verified placements. See, the idea is simple. Today, you're no longer focused on generating skills alone. You're looking at skills translating into employment. So you're having skill impact bonds whereby private investment will come and it can be redeemed only if it is turning into verified placement. And there is retention also. Immediately, no, dropouts not in that way. After getting placed in a company, 3 months later, if you lose the job. So they are trying to see, is he going to stay there for 1 year? Only after 1 year, they are going to allow the person to redeem skill impact bonds. Again, an innovative financing instrument. Another one is your model skill loan scheme, where you're increasing loan limits and guarantee funds to credit-based skill acquisition. Right? So these are some very unique, especially, I have a high hunch. You can say I have a hunch that this will be asked this year. Skill impact bonds. It's a very, very innovative instrument, and it's a potential instrument on which a question can come. Now, when you take the skilling scorecard, they're even giving a skilling scorecard, the scorecard which is measuring outcomes, not just output. The solution is longitudinal tracking. So they are even tracking, geotagging, you can see, basically, whether the person is there in that module or not. And see, training ID, which is your UAN or upper ID, is given to them. Training module, workforce entry, working metric, 6 months retention, earnings are uplifted, feedback, curriculum adjustment. Means what they're trying to do is they're trying to tailor them to the market. Now, after joining the job, if there is any feedback, again, they're trying to readjust, because the program will be again readjusted to the evolving market demands. How the market is evolving, they're trying to create a feedback loop whereby the market keeps, the curriculum keeps evolving. There is an evolution in curriculum. And there were two best practices which have been quoted in the economic survey. One was Singapore, which publishes employment to wage outcomes to shape future course design. Right? So this is actually helping them understand how to design the job. Secondly, the best part in Germany, what's happening is the curriculum design is taken care by the industry. So what's happening is, let's say, for example, you take the case of BMW, right? Now there is an institute in Germany which is teaching automobile engineering, right? There's an institution in Germany which is teaching automobile engineering. Now, the BMW company actually looks into the course module and starts suggesting them changes. Okay, you change that, you add these things. These are necessary for automobile engineering. So there is a direct industry academia linkage through curriculum design. So that once the person is done with this automobile engineering, they just need to take him. They don't need to train him again. He's industry ready. They can directly recruit. They don't need to waste time trying to skill him up. Whereas if you take the case of India, just giving you an idea, today if Infosys has to recruit Indian is there. Same thing, computer science is done in a college. Infosys has to recruit, they have to still give him 9 months training because Infosys is not connected with this curriculum. Today also, if you go, they are teaching logic gates, all those basic 40 years old, 8086, 8586 semiconductors, all these things are being taught, which are no longer being used in the industry, right? That is why you're not able to get them, make them employable. So Germany's design works well in India, provided we give an opportunity for industry to collaborate with the academia, especially in curriculum design, right? That is why government also speaks about ruthless pruning of weak courses should happen. Pruning means removing. Government is speaking about ruthlessly, you should try removing these weak courses. Right? A training, if it's resulting into a job, only then you should allow such courses to exist. So basically, now government is telling we need to converge in all this. They're speaking about a whole of the government approach. See, this has become a very key word for government. Yesterday also, when they released this, I think day before yesterday, they released the AI guidelines. They released the AI governance guidelines. There also they were using the same thing, whole of the government approach. Basically, the idea is to integrate. Whole of the government means everything converges. So workers, vacancies, skilling, all three converge, and only then you have Viksit Bharat. Right? Whole of the government means converging. So what used to happen is earlier you used to take care of workers separately, you used to take care of vacancies separately, you used to take care of skilling as a separate work. Now what's happening is all three are being integrated. See, now I spoke about Skill India Digital Hub. What is happening over there? One industry is getting into this National Career Service portal. They're posting jobs, vacancies are there. Now people who are entering, they know where jobs are there. They also know which courses are there. They're connecting training centers, they're connecting people as well as employees. The factory worker, skill development center. All three are being connected. So that is a convergence. Now in one place you have this data to make decision. Else what used to happen earlier? Workers, you take care of your social security, vacancies you provide in National Career Service, and skilling you do something else. Skills are not translating into jobs. Today, government is spending so much of amount on JNU, for example. If you see colleges like JNU and DU, just to tell, how many of them are becoming employable? To the amount of money that is being spent, subsidized education being given. When you compare it with IITs, when you compare it with IIMs, the same amount of money that is being spent, when you compare it with universities like JNU, Sriram, that's relatively lower, right? That is what government is trying to say. Let me converge, let me skill them very to the right courses so that they can get opportunities. Moving on, next to the human capital, the engine of Viksit Bharat, especially education and health. There are very important things that they have spoken about. They are calling the economic survey makes a very nice statement. The hardware is ready. It is the software which needs to be developed. Hardware is ready. Software needs to be developed. What it implies is infra is ready. Quality is to be developed. Means, for example, for education, schools are there. You're having primary education. Today, you have 99% gross enrollment ratio in primary education. Hardware is there. Schools are there. Now, qualitative growth, software in terms of teaching, retention, learning outcomes. That is where we need to start focusing into for education. This is what government is trying to speak about. And you find that there's a very nice chart. The foundation and the frontier, they're trying to say from where to where. The foundation is access, infrastructure, and enrollment. Or what you can call this as the hardware. This is the software. Again, what we build, where we should go now. Right? In the case of education sector, infrastructure is available, enrollment is happening. Now we need to focus on employability, research, and innovation.
So all these are just focused on the hardware.
It's first you need hardware to build software. So this is the movement that is happening. And when you come to the case of health sector, survival was the focus, mortality as such. Today, well-being is becoming the focus, lifestyle management, mental health care. Yes. Preventive care, not palliative. Palliative is this one, survival focus. That's where you get it. Preventive care is where well-being is focused, where you prevent something from happening. And what they find over here is public health and education are mutually reinforcing. Means a person, if he is educated, his possibility of staying healthy is higher. Means he knows how to protect his health, and one amplifies the other. Or if he is healthy, the possibility of him getting educated is more. Yes, both are mutually reinforcing. And you find that, see, today you're having, as I told you, 27% of the population is aged around 3 to 18. And raising expected years of schooling is moving. It's from 13 years to 17, it has gone. It has to move towards there. Germany, currently we have 13. Germany is having 17. Right? This is the expectation. Further, as I told you, hardware is in place, infrastructure and access. Now, when you see the schools, this is just the data they have provided, school infrastructure improvement data. Electricity, it has improved. 97% of schools have electricity. Girls' toilets are there in 97%. Now, drinking water is there in 19%, 99%. Computers, 52%, and internet in 75% of the schools. Right? This has been provided. You have this program called as Shri. PMC schools, where I think approximately 14,500 schools have been taken, which will become modern models for modern infrastructure. And as you know, India operates one of the world's largest school system, 24.69 crore students with 14.71 lakh schools. Right? PMC scheme is for this 14,500, where they are going to become model schools. Right? The program of the school is Rising Infrastructure, School for Rising Infrastructure. So they say the challenge of schools without facilities is largely behind us. The focus should now shift to what happens inside the classroom. The idea is that, as I told you, they are trying to move towards the qualitative aspects. But as I told you, there is a paradox. You find that this is the classes. This is first standard, second standard, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th. You see enrollment, how it is declining. 68.5%. You are having 99% in primary education. Gross enrollment ratio is 99%. But when you come to secondary, it is 68.5%. Further, 54% of the schools offer only foundational or preparatory education in rural areas. Foundational, basic foundational. Now, what the economic survey is suggesting is, see why this is happening. Why is there a fall? Mainly because of distance. Now, what is happening is, the primary schools are able to go to the villages. With your Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the primary schools were able to enter almost all the villages. But as soon as you move towards secondary schools, the distance increases for the secondary schools. As a result, most of them start dropping. That is why this is happening. That is why they are speaking about coming up with composite schools to improve retention, where, you know, pre-primary to class 8 should be encouraged to be provided in those schools. This is the idea. And also further, how to improve the learning outcomes. One of the improvements, see, with NEP, because see, we had a very bad situation. If you see Pratham reports, you know, Pratham of Parak is also fine. Pratham reports are there. Pratham's ASCR, annual survey of education. If you see the last 10-year reports, if you go back to, let's say, 5-6 years back, you'll find that a 8th standard kid was not able to do basic arithmetic, right? Almost 70 to 80%. Today it has come down to 45%. So decline is happening. You know, the learning outcomes, as you can see, math proficiency, which was 42%, has improved to 65%, and language proficiency 39% to 57%. Now, for this, what is the government doing? How is this happening? So it's not just because of NEP. Now, government is also focusing on teaching to the a lot of literacy classes are being provided. A lot of literacy classes is being provided for adult women, and as a result, with no schooling who have dropped from 23% to 43% to 24%. So the more mothers are getting educated, the more the kid is getting educated, because they find that for foundation and literacy, a mother's intervention is very, very instrumental. The mothers are able to teach to their kids at home. The kids tend to develop these skills, right? So because of the mother effect, you find that there's been a large-scale improvement. That is why they're trying to understand the behavior. These are behavioral inputs. The mother's effect is what has resulted into this, right? So as I said, call to action is nothing but you have to move from schooling to learning via Vidya Samiksha Kendras, real-time monitoring. But still there is an employability gap, as we know, we have discussed. So you find that vocational training status for the age group 14 to 18. And speaking of secondary education again, only 7.1% have joined informal, only 0.97, right? And 91% are having no job. The dropout trap. 44%, another reason they drop out is for household income, not just distance, household income, and siloed skilling. 50% in the IT units. Silos skilling. So they're telling integrate vocational education. See, now this is a very good opportunity where if you integrate vocational education in the secondary education, now the chances of dropout also reduces because you get the opportunity to get employed. So they're trying to integrate this. 6 to 8, how you can prevent dropout is through bringing in vocational based education, whereby they you can say the opportunity of getting a higher income and also developing a skill improves their retention. Now, when you come to the higher education part, they put a picture where you find that AIMS has increased from 7 to 20, IIMs from 13 to 21, IITs from 16 to 23, right? And when you come to the regulation, they are planning to bring in this bill, Viksit Bharat Shiksha Adhisthanam bill for higher education. Anusandhan already we have discussed in terms of research.
1 lakh.
1 lakh crore for? What does it do? I have already spoken a lot about this. ANRF. ANRF is constantly occurring in your economic survey. You can expect a question this year. ANRA is mainly to research on the market and provide, tell the people to the private sector where what opportunities are there. In fact, today you find that many, some government websites are even telling you these are the businesses, this is the process, this is what you should know, do, this is where you should take the fund from. All you need to do is implement it now. These are all the opportunities, go and do it. That is happening because of ANRF. Now ANRF is integrating with the global value chains. It is looking at the global value chain, the global supply, and then it's trying to develop ideas where India will become, on one side, strategically indispensable. On the other side, people also get an opportunity to create companies which will have markets in different countries. So the ANRF is a very, very important instrumental organization, and it is a statutory body. This is why I'm telling it is very, very important. It's a statutory body. There is ANRF Act 2023. Now today there is another thing. A lot of foreign universities are opening in India, and study in India is gaining, especially a lot of UK universities are started to come in India. to cater to Indian demand. They are opening a lot of centers in India, and they're studying in India. Global linkages is improving. And Professor of Practice initiative have also been started. Right? Now, when you come to public health, this is a very nice picture. What you find in this picture is IMR, see public health, you can check through IMR, MMR. These are some indicators. And crude death rate. These are what tell you what is happening. Now, when you see maternal mortality has decreased, MMR has decreased by 86%. Infant mortality is also drastically reduced by 78%. And you find that current infant mortality is 25 per 1,000 live births. Earlier it was 44. Now it has come down to 25. And you find that these states have moved towards single digit. Of these, Kerala is the one with 5 as the infant mortality rate. Now there is one rider over here. So the question that might come in your prelims is, infant mortality rate of Kerala is 5. Or they want to ask it is 5. They will tell infant mortality rate in Kerala is the lowest in the country. Right? No numbers or anything. Infant mortality rate in Kerala is the lowest in the country. Then you have to oppose. Why? Because you find that smaller states are performing better. Sikkim is having 4, Mizoram is having 4. Right? You find the smaller states. See, it is again. I won't always attribute it to density. There is good awareness. There is intention in the states to ensure that the population does not suffer. It's mainly the intention, because if you are trying to say this, there are other smaller states also. Density which is lesser, you can go to smaller states like these are all the only. Oh, Uttarakhand you can go, Himachal Pradesh you can go. Still, they're not performing as much as these. It is the intention. So just be clear. We always tend to get, we might get confused. Kerala is a model state everywhere. In the big states, Kerala, yes, is able to manage a large population with good infant mortality rate. But overall in India, you find that Sikkim, even Andaman is having lower rates. Right? So be careful. If you get a question on those lines, that is where UPSC might trick you. And what we have found is, see, IMR, MMR questions used to come a lot in 2008 to 2012 or 2005 to 2012, in that brief period. Then suddenly it has stopped, which might restart anytime. Which might restart, mainly because census also didn't take place, but now with census and the data which we are observing in economic survey, there is a higher possibility that it might be asked. Now, as I told you, when it comes to the case of diseases also, you find that non-communicable diseases are dominating, right? 57% of the deaths are now non-communicable diseases, with cardiovascular disease being the leading killer. And also, we find that women are facing higher proportion of ill-defined diseases, right? Women are facing the brunt of this. So this is one important aspect where non-communicable diseases are, because of lifestyle, mainly lifestyle. And see this is a very, very important chart I felt, because another thing they are speaking about is obesity, which is growing. Again, it's associated with non-communicable diseases. Now, the growth in ultra-processed foods has also resulted in growth in obesity. This chart, what it's showing is the growth. See, this is the ultra-processed foods growth, and you see the obesity, how it is increasing. Right? Today, you have almost 3.3 crores children who are obese, and it is projected to become 8.3 crores in another 10 years. Right? And the marketing trap is they create this health allos, aggressive marketing are displacing traditional diets. So people are getting influenced by this, and that is why there was a recommendation that there should be front of the pack labeling and advertising, which government last, I think 2-3 days before, they have brought into, I mean, Supreme Court has brought into practice. Supreme Court has directed FSSAI to bring out with regulations which show front of the fact labeling, whereby it clearly shows. So many people are not even able to understand how these ultra processed foods are coming. For example, people think, take the case of Oreo. They think the cream inside Oreo is, yes, if rather it is rapeseed oil, not rapeseed, that's vegetable only, rapeseeds. Rapeseed is one of the, and that is nothing but unsaturated. It is going to clog the kids, complete digestive tracts. Unknowingly, most of the mothers are buying Oreo for their kids. So that's why front of the fact labeling is very, very much important. Now, further nutrition security, we need behavioral changes over calories. See, what we find is calorie intake is sufficiently improved and is meeting. But today you need more of dietary diversity. Micronutrients, other nutrients as such. And for that, what all they're trying to do? One, cash transfers, so that the households are able to spend more on what kind of diet they require. Earlier, mainly by giving through National Food Security Act, if you are giving food at rupee 1, rupee 2, there will be more dominance of cereals, wheat, rice, right? So now they're trying to give cash transfer so that you buy what is good for you. Another one is through social and behavioral change communication, where they're trying to bring in more ideas. See, especially with these ASHA workers, they're trying to train the ASHA workers to go and even give an idea on nutrition, right? And there is one important success story. What was observed was there was a Bahubali campaign, right? There was a Bahubali campaign where fathers were being made more to become more nutrition conscious. So fathers are like a role model. And they found that in the families, if fathers become fit, if fathers are able to maintain their health, then the kids automatically tend to follow their fathers, right? That's why they started creating male awareness, where it rose from 18% to 62%. And in the Bahubali campaign, they tried to reimagine the father figure, right? As I told you, nudging the kids, trying to understand how people are, behavioral economics, trying to understand how people behave. Now, there is another aspect in health, another trend, which is bringing in a very, very disturbing, you can say, data. The more people, higher, in some states, higher digital access is also leading to higher suicide rates. Also leading to higher suicide rates, right? Higher digital access is leading to higher suicide rates. And in some states, you find that though there is high digital access, their suicide rates are low. For example, I'll tell you surprising statistics. In Kerala, higher suicide rates. In Bihar, lower suicide rates. Digital access is almost equivalent. But you find that in Kerala, there is higher suicide rate than in Bihar. Why? Mainly because in Bihar, people are more socially integrated. So though they have a life online, they have a higher amount of time they're spending offline with social networks. They are online also, they are offline also. And the social, you can say, trust, the social, you can not even the fabric, the social gatherings, the culture, that is what is giving them more and more, you can say, mental peace. They're feeling more happy with that. Though they go online, they see all the online things, you find that there is lower suicide rates because people are more well connected. Right? Socially, they are well connected. Whereas in Kerala, you find that today, Kerala earlier, it was a highly well connected society. Today, the society is fragmented, mainly because of digital access, and more people are into digital They are more online. They have given a very good saying over here. I put it also. We lived on farms, then we went to cities. Now we live on the internet, right? So we are moving towards that era, right? And trying to get yourself validated online. You can say the persistence to get validated online. Every day you need to keep showing something. Every day you need to keep telling that your life is good. It's creating a kind of pressure. It's creating a kind of, is inflicting their self-confidence if something is not happening. As a result, people are facing depression, ultimately leading to suicides. Right? So this was a very, very interesting. See, Kerala, dispersed digital networks, higher suicide rate, localized, rooted networks of society.
What is the graph?
This graph was on that particular, you can say, digital network they have tried to show. Yeah, basically the cognitive crisis, which they have showed, localized, rooted. So they have tried to put some measures over here in the graph. You don't need to put this, I'll just show. Now, moving on, mental health and digital age. 32 lakh calls were received by Telemanas. 32 lakh calls from Telemanas. And 48% of the internet users, after watching online videos, they have called, right? And what all is happening? Sleep, higher screen time is leading to insomnia, social comparison, gaming disorders, all these things are happening. Now, government has brought this regulation giving, again, this is a potential question, the Online Gaming Regulation Act 2025, where they're trying to bring in digital detox centers and age gating social media. Building resilient citizens, not just digital users. So finally, you see, there is an integrated policy framework, convergence, lifelong care and learning, the digital backbone, regulatory safeguards, and community behavior through Portion 2.0, where you want to influence Vidya Samiksha Kendras. Portion 2.0, you are employing ASHA workers, right? That is a major improvement. Regulatory, we saw food labeling as such for ultra-processed foods, online gaming act. These cards have already we have discussed. So this is the overall picture of what we discussed on the health capital, or you can say the human capital. Moving on. The path to 2047 is the nurturing a resilient population, preventive care, outcome-based learning, and digital resilience. As I said, hardware is built, future depends on the software of human capital. Now, coming to rural development and social progress. Coming to rural development and social progress, from participation to partnership. When you look at rural development, the idea of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Prayas, Sabka Vishwas, right? Hence, moving towards a community-driven partnership. This is nothing but moving towards a community-driven partnership is actually blooming in the rural areas. A lot of projects are being initiated with community involvement by the government. You find that social protection has increased to 64% in rural areas. Earlier, it was 22%. There has been a huge growth. Social sector expenditure, 12%. Sanitation, 100% ODF districts are there. Human capital spending, education, 11%, health, 8% for rural areas. For rural areas. Which one? No. This is expenditure by the government. This is expenditure of the government. See, overall government spending is still 3% and 2.1%. But when you come to the rural part, right, there is a growth of 11%. Means earlier, for education on rural side, they used to spend lesser. Now more is going. compared to education in the urban. In rural, they're spending more. This is completely on the government side. And when you come to this poverty also, you find that multidimensional poverty index presents a very nice picture, whereby it has collapsed from 55% to 11%. So today you find that poverty is somewhere around 11.28%. This is a new statistic which has come, right? Economic services. And extreme poverty today is still 5.3%. Today you have extreme poverty still 5.3%.
Yeah.
Yes, Kerala almost has zero. You can see the poverty rates also. See, today when you take 2020 to 23, they have put the map. Green are states with very low poverty, and red, you don't see any red as such. You don't see any red as such. Many states are moving towards green. Here also you find see green states, green. And inequality, again, there was a sharpest growth in consumption in the bottom 5 to 10% population. Again, that means their wage rate, somewhere they're getting money. Increasing freebies. See, freebies is, again, only with respect to, what do you say? Yes, if you are getting goods in freebies, definitely rural consumption won't increase. But if you're getting money, now, for example, again, I think so, 3 days before Tamil Nadu Chief Minister announced 5,000 rupees for women. Again, we have announced 2,000, 3,000 rupees for women. So when you're giving such amounts, it definitely spurs rural consumption too. And states are becoming laboratories. Some very good case studies that we find. In Bihar, we have this particular scheme, Satat Jivi Koparajan Yojana. What they've done in that scheme is they've taken assets and they've transferred, means money, land or something, assets they've taken and they've transferred it to women. And then they've mentored the women on how to utilize the asset. And they've given livelihood gap assistance during that period. As a result, she has been able to tap into the asset and she has started generating income from the assets. Basically, hand-holding and getting her to generate revenue from that. Right? Very nice. That was done for mainly ultra-poor women. Right? See, it might be land or they might set up a stall, fruit stall they might set up. Now you operate it. I'll teach you how to operate it, from where to get it, fruits, how to operate. So anything as such, it might be one land also, anything. You have created a capital asset and you have transferred it to her. She has to train, she has to be trained, she'll be handled for 24 months, mentored. And then in the brief period, they also give livelihood gap assistance. If her income is falling below levels where she's not able to survive, they're trying to support that also. Finally, she has started managing that. And this was done for ultra poor women. That's why it's become a very famous case study. A very nice program also. So, sir, Satat SJY, we generally written as SJY, Satat Jiviko Parajan Yojana. And in Kerala, as you know about the Kudumbashree model, that has also resulted into declining poverty, where micro plans are done, right? Ajivika Yojana. Now, when you come to the rural economic engine, right? Rural consumption has risen, and this is what I said, Manrega. The declining dependence on distress employment. See, Manrega is mainly distress employment, right? And from 389 million to 183 million, it's a huge decline. Rural unemployment has fallen from 3.3% to 2.5%. Yes. Yes. Jiramji, in fact, I put a chart. Jiramji is important. As you know, the possibility of this coming is very high. Now, what are the differences? 100 days wage, 125 days wage. Scattered works, now it is more increased focus only on water, infra, livelihoods, and climate. This was top down. Now, today it is Gram Sabha led Viksit Gram Panchayat plans. Manual mixed reporting, completely AI monitoring and national infrastructure stack. It's completely going to be monitored by AI and infrastructure stack. No specific agri alignment, no specific provision. State can notify pauses during sowing or harvesting to support agri labor. Sometimes some workers might prefer to only work in Manrega rather than going back to agriculture when jobs are available too. So at that particular period, state might bring in a pause. And as you know, here it was 100%. It was 100% central government who used to fund. Now this has moved to 60 to 40. 60 is to 40, whereby 60 is center gives, 40 is by state. Yeah. Another important scheme which is doing really well is the Lakpati Didi scheme. You know, where social capital is being harnessed. Lakpati Didi is mainly to encourage growth of SHGs. They are trying to upskill them through Drone Didi scheme. They are making them bank sakis, correspondents. And again, they are also creating agri-nutri gardens. Right? So you find that 10.5 crore households have been mobilized for this. 11.92 lakh crore bank credit access has been given, which is extremely huge. And mostly 90.90, that is 91 lakh SHGs have benefited from this. They have become the backbone of rural economy. Lakpati Didi is a very important scheme. See, it resulted into so many upskilling possibilities. And when you come to the land governance part also, this time it makes some very important observations. You have this central government scheme, Swamitwa scheme. Yes, Swamitwa is digitalization of property rights, basically, so that you can get access to bank loans and it reduces the disputes. So they are telling 3.28 lakh villages have been mapped with 2.76 cards have been prepared. You know, smart village innovations are also happening. In Maharashtra, one case study was given, Sathyanarayana smart village, right? They are using AI for soil, solar-powered smart irrigation, IoT water monitoring, and there is 99.8% digitization of property right records. Why I'm telling this is, see, this is done. First, this happened. Why this is a smart village innovation or how it's happening is, once this was done, then everything else happened. You are not willing to invest in land where you are unsure whether you are going to get that land or not. If you don't get the feeling of ownership, or when you don't know that you are going to be continuing to be the owner, then you won't build assets on them. Right? Monetization of the land doesn't happen. Monetization will happen only with ownership. And that is why with this one change, you see the transformation that has happened in the village. 99.8% of the land records are here in this village. E-Bhumi has records, but again, disputed records, it's not providing. Whatever records are there, they have been digitized. This is in that village, all the land has been digitized. So 99.8% of the land have been digitized, only 0.2% there is some. And that is where this has translated into this. Now, another thing, reviving the commons, strategy and livelihoods. See, very, very important. India holds 6.6 crore hectares of common land, that is grazing fields and ponds, which are supporting 35 crore people for livelihood activities. As you know, agriculture and allied activities starting to dominate. And this is very, very important. But they are under facing degradation and ecological security is being created. Waste to wealth initiatives are crucial for reversing this diversification. So you have community management based on Elinor Ostrom's principles, which says, water, all these things, people need to get together and then manage completely, solve the problems. You have Mission Amrit Sarovar, rejuvenating water bodies. You find that the main call is this today, water has become very critical. And even the economic survey says about that. We need to build more and more water bodies. Water has become more and more critical. And productive commons, solarization and biogas. See, again, here what is happening is Solar, let's say in cities, you have this domestic solar scheme, rooftop solar, which works because already buildings are being built and you have access to the terraces. But when you go to rural areas, it becomes very difficult for you to generate so much of solar from one building. And for in cities, you find that anyway you are having a distributed access also. Whereas in villages, you find that habitations are sparse. Means it is all located spatially. They're not next to each other. They, like the next neighbor is 500 meters away, 300 meters away. It's not like just next door or someone is staying. As a result of this, solarization is a challenge because you won't be able to get current always. Instead of that, if you are able to allot common land and go for solarization in that, whereby the complete village, then it will definitely benefit them. So there's a larger recommendation for this solarization and biogas plants because since in agriculture there will be a lot of waste, biogas can be created and they can start tapping into biogas electricity too. This is the idea that the restoration strategy is providing. And it's also, see, whatever you do today, digitization is there in everything. This your understanding. Government is creating stacks upon stack. Again, capacity building through Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, RGSA, where 35 lakh participants have been trained to localize SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And then you have a digital governance stack where e-Gram Swaraj, you're trying to create planning, payments, audit, Sabhasar, AI meeting minutes, everything. This is a very nice initiative, Sabhasar, where AI will record all what's happening in a meeting and the minutes will be uploaded. What discussions happened. Already is there. Have implemented it. And then based on all this data, you are trying to come out with indices. Why? Because then you are able to determine the performance and performance grants can be given. Your finance commission, all they're giving performance grants, right? They're recommending it all will be based on these ideas. So you're empowering Gram Panchayats with tools to function as effective local governments. The third government. In truth, it should actually be the first government. They are calling it as a third government. The economic survey calls it as a third government. But in truth, it should be the first government, and the central government should be the third government. That's the bottom-up approach. Now, the physical backbone, infrastructure saturation. You find that road connectivity is almost 100%. PM Gram Sadak Yojana. Tap water access, it's almost come down to 81%. Right? And 3.74 houses have been completed. This is mainly for your mains data. And also PM Janman, which has been initiated for PVTGs. 75 PVTGs have benefited from this. Right? Last year it was done, while the Dharti Abha Abhiyan covers 63,000 tribal villages. This has found large takers, right? And smart tribal farming in Odisha model and MP model, where income has risen from 1,500 to 90,000. We are integrated farmer, right? In MP, they have started community seed banks, reviving old organic traditions. And forest rights titles have been distributed to 233.48 lakh acres, which is still less. It is not more, but better. You find that this is one area where they have to focus more. They're not given in percentages, they're given in terms of numbers. That's why they say one there is statistics, one there is lives. And finally, building human capital, skilling and behavioral change. You find that government is encouraging more and more entrepreneurship in rural. Our cities is nothing but trying to. This is Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Yojana, right? Placement focus and cities, which is mainly focused on creating entrepreneurship, self-employment opportunities. Rural youth employment is being driven by this, and you have social and behavioral changes through SPCC. You are moving from unaware to active adopter. Very, very important. See, these are the keywords that you should know. Moving from unaware to active adopter. right? There are a lot of phases. See, being unaware, then becoming aware, then adopting. There are 3 stages. Many people are still stuck over here. Many people are aware and they're stuck over here. And Meri Panchayat has been included where people become more aware of what's happening in the Panchayat. Lastly, when it comes for dignity for the most vulnerable, you are having 3 schemes. One is Namaste. Namaste is where for sanitation workers, you are trying to make it more automated. You are bringing in all the equipment where automation and mechanized sanitation ecosystem will occur. Second one you are having is transgender smile scheme, establishment of Garima groups, mainly shelter homes for them. Thirdly, social security net, more than 9 crores, beneficiaries have been covered under digital life certificates. We have face authentication. So basically the part of Viksit Bharat is growth, inclusion, sustainability, and future priorities are as such. Government is a two-way street. We are building citizens who are not just beneficiaries, but proud partners in progress. This is a very good concluding line for your main answer. So we will stop with this, right? Remaining we'll cover some other day.